Hello everybody, I'm Denitsa Petkova, the artist behind the comic FanFyria, and the one you know as Denny. First before all, thank you everyone for the support, for sticking with me despite my long breaks and inconsistent updates. Thank you for the encouraging comments which you kept leaving, and thank you for making this journey so exciting for me. I hope it was exciting to you as much as it was fun to me. Big special thanks to L, my editor, without whom these comics will have been as good as it turned out to be. He started editing my word bubbles since page 30 something, and the comic got so much better. By now you probably guessed that English isn't my native language. I hope you can understand me, if not I will leave subtitles or something on this. But yeah, L, my editor, he rocks. He kept fixing my errors, kept making the characters sound exactly how I meant to make them sound, and I learned a lot from him. By the last chapter there were pages where he didn't need to correct anything, so yes, he was huge help, and I'm not so intimidated by comic making as I used to be. So yes, thank you L, you're awesome. What else I was going to talk about? Some interesting details about the comics, at least I hope they will be interesting to you. So these comics did indeed start back when I was in high school, and I really did have a teacher who for some reason didn't like me at all. I was the black sheep of the class and I never figured out why. So one day a classmate of mine randomly said how she wished an anvil would suddenly drop on his head, and I couldn't help but picture it. So I ended up giggling and laughing through the whole class, which probably made him hate me even more. This idea in the comic was inspired from a real thing in my life. Just like Denny in the comic, I too used to draw a lot in my notebooks instead of taking notes. Storytelling in general, be it comics or actual stories, it's not new to me. I've been doing this since like 2nd or 3rd grade. I was constantly drawing or writing stories, making little illustrations, making characters and worlds and such. I wasn't really going out much as a kid. I was more interested in world making. So yeah, but I digress. Okay, back to the comics. You see, originally I had quite a different story in mind, and it did start in high school, as I said, but it was mostly about my classmates and silly misadventures we were doing, and my muse. Exardian, my muse, really started because I began to refer to my muse as unhappy whenever I was struggling to draw something or whenever I was feeling uninspired. So one day I thought, hey, I should draw him, since I keep referring to him as some person. So I did, and the name Exardian, because it's such a crazy name, it really was the first name that came to mind when I was drawing him. I do that a lot with my characters. I usually name them while I draw them for the first time. I always pick some kind of a name that settles in my head when I think of them for the first time, or if I keep encountering some kind of a name around while I think of the character, and I decide that this name is probably the name the character wants. The name making was a theme in the comic and I wanted to use it. Oh yeah, the whole muses are attached to some kind of object. You see, when I was a child, and I used to have this idea in my head that if I destroy the very first drawing of a character I made, then I will kill them. I don't know why I conclude that, but that was my idea in my head, that if I destroy the first drawing, then the character will die. Actually, it's not like I believe in that, but I got this habit of keeping all kinds of doodles and sketches, so I have mountains of doodles and sketches in my home. I never destroy a drawing or throw it away, so I have so many at home. And I use that idea in FanFyria, when if you destroy the first creation, then the muse dies. So I did say the comic was quite different at first, or the story of FanFyria anyway. But the problem was it was quite silly, and I wanted the world, and I wanted it to be interesting. I wanted to focus on what's to be a creator in your own created world. The problem was my friends no longer fit there. They were in fact clashing with the whole setting. So I began to change everything, began to filter what was interesting and what not. In my life there was even a point where I nearly sold FanFyria as an idea to a publishing company, but I declined that after they decided that they liked the idea but wanted to change too much from the original content and the characters, and I was not very happy about it, so I declined it. And I may use that event in my life in future FanFyria installments, because it was interesting thing. Time passed, the world expanded in my head, I got new friends to adventure with me in FanFyria. It was like our little roleplay world. And that's how it kept growing, we kept adding things. But eventually, one day, I got one of these what am I doing with my life kind of crisis. So I decided I want to do something with FanFyria. I wanted a comic about FanFyria. The thing was, FanFyria was always some kind of a world about my friends, about their characters, and I kind of got fed up with that. I didn't want it to be a comic about my friends, or trying to fit my friends and their characters in this world. I wanted an original world. I wanted to tell a story about that world, so one day I bought a pack of 300 pages of plain print paper and began to outline, sketch and draw the comic. So yes, this whole comic was traditionally drawn on plain print paper. Hooray, how cheap! And speaking about how sloppy I am, let me tell you how sloppy I was in the whole process, which you probably guessed by now. You see, at first I was having a proper storyboard and outline done for like every chapter, and I was making sure I was up to 5 or more pages done before every update. However, obligations, real-life crisis, and lots of other things kept getting on the way as expected. And at the end I found myself drawing the next week pages during the weekend and having only up to 4 or 5 hours to do both pages, which didn't leave me with much time to storyboard or think things through. I did always have a general idea in my head, but not in complete detail. I did have lots of notes, some of them did get lost. When you have such a long story stretched for like 2-3 years, it's really hard to keep all details consistent. I tried and I did my best keeping notes organized, but I did end up losing some. And to be honest, when I started, I was concerned that I may not finish it. I was determined, trust me, I was. I was sure that through tears, twitchy eyes, through my own hand falling off, I will keep drawing until I finish it. But you never know, anything could happen. Like, what if people didn't like it? What if they thought it was too cheesy? And then I remind myself that I draw this comic to tell a story, and it's my story and my comic. Whoever likes it, and whoever doesn't, well, there are plenty of other comics out there. And then I got the regular readers, you guys, and that was amazing. It was a huge boost to me. I couldn't honestly believe people would be excited about my story like this, or come up with theories and such. It really helped me, so once again, thank you everyone. What else about my sloppiness? Alright, the concept sketches. Yeah, I had concept sketches of all the characters, so I could have a good idea about their design. However, I lost them, of course. I had to draw a lot of characters from memory, such as Exardian, or as you know him as Grumps. His robes, they changed the detail on his sleeves several times, because I lost my notes, I kept changing the design, it was awful. Same goes for the characters Alberius and Richard. Yeah, I will be sure to fix that, and when I start FanFyria 2, I'll be sure to have good concept art done beforehand, not lose it this time. About the ending, which a lot of you complained about, I'm sorry, I know it's sudden, and I do plan to expand it. Maybe I was a little bit tired and kind of, oh, I don't know what else to happen, just end it. Yeah, I will expand it when me and L begin to edit the comic and prepare it for printing. We'll probably end up adding a couple of more pages here and there, maybe expand some scenes, maybe cut some others, rearrange the chapters, because they're like the first chapters are so short compared to the last ones, so there will be some kind of rearranging maybe. Once it's done, we will let you know, and I'll be very happy if you buy a copy, but you're not obligated to do that. I'll be sure to make the comic worth the money, and I will probably add stuff like characters, biography, world map, or some kind of extra stuff for sure. So it won't be just the comic you read, there will be some extra content. I was actually a little stumbled at chapter 6, maybe you realized that, maybe you caught it. You see the character, the adorable moth character Yule, he was supposed to die. In the original script he was supposed to die, and then he was supposed to get this whole you can't save everyone moment, and then make her think over how some creators treat their creations so poorly that they eventually fade and die for real. But I thought this was too dark. I mean, it was supposed to be a cheerful, happy comic, and that was very dark theme. I was starting to feel really bad for you. Plus, Denny is really the gotta save them all kind of girl. So instead, I had her deny Yu's death, which due to her connection to the world caused a change in which Yu did survive. I don't know if you caught that, but Zenter, who was watching on his fluffy happy cloud, he appeared surprised exactly because Yu was supposed to die but didn't. The user Silval, if I pronounced that right, sorry if I am pronouncing it wrong, Silval mentioned that Rivasu is not a sin, and yes, he's not a sin, he's an unmuse. That's why the Void did mention something along the lines that, are you sure you want to be a sin? Are you understanding the price you're going to pay if you want to become a sin? Something like that. Xavier was really fun to draw. And he was really fun to have around, and I consider bringing him back in FanFyria 2. I will see, I can't promise right now, but I will have it in mind. About the pillar, because it was a little confusing, I think, to some of you. Now that will be a little harder to explain. The idea was that FanFyria needed someone to solidify it as a world, to establish a canon. The pillar is symbolic. Denny became one because she took the trip to FanFyria seriously and decided to draw her muse, to draw the world and the character and do something creative with the idea that came to her mind at school. And I thought it would be different if I write a comic about how writing a comic can save a whole fantasy world from ever be known and to sink into the void. So I hope this story will inspire people out there to create whatever characters, world stories, pictures, anything they feel inspired to create, instead of never letting these ideas be more than just an idea in their heads. FanFyria 2. It will be a sequel, yay! Denny and her muse will return for more adventures, explore more of the world, explore some things already mentioned in the first story, and this time it will be focused on the Fire Muse instead of the Winter Muse. The region which was previously covered in the Void, they will be visiting this region, I'm not gonna say which, and I don't want to spoil any further, but the story of FanFyria 2 is something I was really looking forward to reaching ever since I started the comic. I already started working on the outline, but I can't say when I will begin it. As some of you know, I work full-time now, and that leaves me with very little free time. But I will manage somehow. I will try to begin FanFyria 2 in September, but I am not giving any promises. I don't want to give any promises. I will try my best. Right now, me and Elle will be working on editing FanFyria 1 and preparing it for printing. I will look into getting proper independent site, maybe a better layout for the comic, and maybe get forums where we can all interact and chat if you guys want. If you keep checking this page, I will try to keep updating with pictures or news whenever I have such until FanFyria 2 begins. So yeah, I think that's all. I hopefully didn't miss anything I meant to say. So yes, thank you once again for your support, and until next time.